So Kurt Lewin is considered the father of social psychology. And he's the one who teased some of these ideas out. And one of the things he offers is this equation that he points out that the behavior is a function of the person and the situation. And he writes this in equation form. B is a function of P and E. Behavior is a function of the person and his or her interaction with the environment. So what do we mean by behavior? Well, we might be explaining a typical behavior that a person engages in often, or a behavior that this person does only under stressed situations. What do we mean by P? This is what we're trying to explain, these behaviors. By P, we mean the needs and interests of this individual person, their personality, just their unique aspects that they bring forward. And by E, we mean the people and things going around the person, the environment, the situation. So we're going to consider the factors that cause us to make different attributions, and we'll do so through this covariation principle. That is, the idea that behavior should be attributed to potential causes that occur along with the behavior in question. And this idea can be kind of hard to wrap your head around, so you'll want to read about this in the book and listen to it fairly carefully. So in other words, we make attributions based not just on an individual behavior, but on factors like how typical this behavior is in a person. So in this example, this girl is throwing flour at this boy. And mom comes along and says, "I've never seen her act like this before. That boy must be a bad influence." So she's looking not just at what her child has done, but how typical this behavior does. And if it's not typical, then what is distinctive about this situation? So we consider in covariation principle 3 types of information. One is consensus. So this is a type of covariation that means that, is this what most people would do in a given situation? Would most people behave the same way, or would few or no other people behave this way? So how is this what a typical person would do? Consensus. Secondly is distinctiveness. Another type of covariation information, what an individual does in different situations. Is this behavior unique, or does it occur in all situations? And the mom from our last slide had determined that this behavior was unique. It's distinctive. It doesn't occur in all situations for her daughter. And then consistency. A type of covariation information, what an individual does in a given situation on different occasions. Next time, would the person behave the same way or differently? And so these are the 3 elements that we'll look at. And so let's look at an example. Let's say that you observe a behavior. You notice that Ira smiles a lot on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons. So first off, the covariation addresses consistency. So the consistency is high. In this case, Ira always smiles on these afternoons. In this case, the distinctiveness is also, if it's high, Ira only smiles after his Monday, Wednesday, Friday exercise class. That makes it distinctive. But if it's low, that means Ira smiles a lot without exercise. So it's not very distinctive. Regardless of the exercise, he's going to still smile. And now let's imagine consensus. High consensus, exercise makes everyone I know happy. Or low consensus, exercise rarely makes people I know happy. So now let's look at the conclusion that we draw. So if we have high consistency, Ira always smiles. It's consistent. We have high distinctiveness. The smile happens Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons after the exercise class only. And there's consensus, exercise makes people happy. We're going to tend to make an external attribution. Something about exercise causes Ira to smile. If we have high consistency, he's smiling every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we have low distinctiveness, it smiles a lot with or without exercise. If he misses the exercise, it doesn't affect him. He still smiles a lot. And exercise rarely makes people I know happy. then we can say Ira's basically a happy guy. This is an internal attribution. So this tends to be how we make these decisions. So in the case of our little flower throwing girl, we had low consistency, and we did have some high distinctiveness and low consistency in that the girl didn't usually throw flour. We had high distinctiveness in that the boy was only there that one time, and the consensus was also low. People typically don't throw flour. So then we came to this external attribution and we blamed the situation on the boy. Another example. Dad is rude to your friend Chris. How do we explain Dad's behavior? So here we're looking at this person, the teenager whose dad was rude to his friend. And let's say there's low consensus. People usually like Chris. Few people dislike Chris. So Dad's actions weren't in consensus with most people. But his actions are very consistent. He's always rude to Chris. And it's not distinctive, low distinctive. Dad is usually rude to your friends. It's not just Chris. Then we make an internal attribution. Dad is an old grouch. So some other ways of thinking about how our prior knowledge impacts our inferences about the cause of behavior. The first is this discounting principle. It's the idea that people should assign reduced rate to a cause if other causes might have produced it. So the example here is that Jose hit Georgie, but he had no breakfast this morning because his parents had a big fight. Jose is not a bad kid. So here we're not going to make an internal attribution because there are other causes that might have produced it. We're discounting the idea that he's a bad kid. We're attributing it to the other causes. So we're going to reduce the weight on the internal attribution. Jose is a bad kid because we can find these other causes. Augmenting means to add on. Augmentation principle, the idea that people should assign greater weight to a particular cause of behavior if other causes are present that would normally produce a different outcome. So our example, Jordana should have been happy. All her friends came and brought her such nice presents. So Jordana was unhappy at her birthday party. So we conclude she must be a selfish person. So here in our discounting principle, we have an external attribution. Jose hit Georgie because of these external situations. He's not a bad kid. These external situations would have caused a lot of people maybe to behave badly. So there's some consensus there. These external situations were, weren't always present. So he's not consistently hitting Georgie. These causes also aren't always present. So this was kind of distinctive, so he's not a bad kid. But here we're looking at Jordana should have been happy. All her friends brought her presents. Typically, consensus says that when people bring us presents, we're happy. And so she's acting outside of consensus. So there's low consensus in her behavior. And I don't know. We don't know whether she's happy all the time or not. So we don't know how global her behavior is. I mean, how stable her behavior is. But we do know that we make an internal attribution here, saying she's a selfish person. Her behavior has low consensus with others. And so then we draw this kind of conclusion. So we add on to the causes because there's consensus. Counterfactual thinking is something maybe all of us do. We harm ourselves by comparing real outcomes to imagined alternatives, counterfactual thoughts, so we can make ourselves very unhappy with thoughts of what if. What might have happened if I had gone to that party? What might have happened if I'd said yes? What might have happened if I'd stopped and helped my grandma? So counterfactual thoughts, comparing what really happened to what we imagine might have happened, and these can really create some negative feelings in ourselves, imagining different realities. This is a little explanation, a video explanation that I'll post right under the lecture. And I do caution you, the professor has a strong accent, but it's still a really good description, so be a little patient with it. Just 2 minutes. And then emotional amplification, this is actually the last slide in this content. This is counterfactual thinking. It can lead to a bigger emotional reaction to an event. So the reaction may be greater if it's pretty easy to imagine the alternative. So the example is, I missed my plane. Oh, if only I hadn't stopped for coffee. Ah! So if it's really easy to picture this one small thing that would have made the difference, then we can have this emotional reaction that's even greater. So if the alternative is easily imaginable, there's an increased feeling of personal responsibility and emotional amplification. Another example, I missed my plane, but the blizzard came up unexpectedly and was unavoidable. Much less likely to have that emotional amplification because it's hard to imagine what else could have happened. There's nothing that could be done. The blizzard came. So just a little bit of things you can be aware of in your own reactions, and maybe try to avoid counterfactual thinking when at all possible. Thanks for tuning in. The next content will be coming up.